Well, I think what we're going to hear is that we are in a new phase of this crisis. Obviously, we're in the recovery phase at first, then the renewal phase, which is coming up, which means that we're going to see this economy coming back. And what does that mean for manufacturers in particular? It means that we have to have skilled workers. So even with all of this horrific unemployment, when we are back producing and manufacturing the way that we hope to be soon, we're going to need skilled workers to actually get the job done. And that's what this focus has been for Ivanka Trump since she's been in her role. She has always focused on making sure that Americans have the right skills to be able to have our economy be the most productive ever.
I understand how difficult things are out there in America right now with random shutdowns and job losses as well. In fact, ironically, my wife's company, they're trying to get something done that requires switching manufacturers. So we're kind of in the middle of it around the dinner table, if you will. But ultimately, long term, Jay, do you see this driving what was happening during the trade war, which is a push to restructure the geographic priorities of supply chains primarily out of Asia and back to the United States? I mean, ultimately, could there be a long-term positive for American manufacturing through all this pain?
Well, I think there's a long-term imperative, Brian. There's no question about that. You know, we came through this. It was like almost like an auto accident, something you didn't expect. And so we were in a recovery, in a response phase where you were just doing anything you could to make sure the patient was still living. Now we're in a recovery phase as states are reopening. So we're making sure that everybody's doing the right thing. And I'm going to take a moment to remind everybody to protect our frontline workers, especially manufacturers, by wearing a mask wherever you go outside. It's very, very important. The renewal phase will really focus on what are we going to do to strengthen America's economy and onshoring jobs and bringing some facilities back to the United States, investing in the United States like we were with tax reform and regulatory reform before this crisis hit. That's what we want to see happen again in this country. And I think we can start to see much more growth in manufacturing as we get to the renewal phase. And we have a plan to do that.
We have to start. We have to start, Jay, with healthcare equipment. I would imagine. I mean, you read these horror stories of fake N95 masks, the masks that doctors and nurses and frontline providers rely on to basically keep themselves healthy and alive, are being manufactured, and patents are being stolen and faked. Healthcare is one thing as well. Also, talk to us about just making sure people stay trained. If you lose your job for a couple of months, the longer you're employed, studies show, the longer you're likely to be unemployed because you lose skills.
Your skills do atrophy. There's no question about that. And in manufacturing, things change all the time. We are a very adaptive industry. So as new technologies emerge, as new types of processes emerge, we've got to make sure that our workforce is trained in the skills necessary to do the job. Again, that's what the workforce panel is all about today. It's what Ivanka Trump is very, very focused on. And we can do that in a multitude of ways. There are many pathways to success in this country, even in a down economy. There's no question about that. But what we have to do is we have to make sure that we have the opportunities available through technical schools and community colleges and other types of training opportunities. That's what we'll be focusing on today.
Okay, and then what do you want to see long term? If there's one thing you could ask for the next decade, Jay, for help for American manufacturers, what would it be?
I think it would be a continuation of smart and sensible tax and regulatory policy, Brian, because we saw what that was doing to help supercharge manufacturing before this crisis. That philosophy is as good in a down economy as it is a roaring economy. We've got to make sure that we stay focused on making sure that manufacturing is competitive in the United States so that we don't have this problem in the future if we have, God forbid, another crisis like this. We want to make things in the United States. People always ask me, well, what do you want to bring back to the United States? I represent manufacturers in America. If I had my way, everything would be made here in this country. But that's not practical because we have 95% of the customers are outside of the United States. But we want to make as much as we can here. We want to make sure that we have national and economic security that is rooted in manufacturing in America.